The internet can't stop talking about Maine Mendoza and Alden Richards' last kiss. In a world where trends come and go in seconds, it's rare for a single moment to linger in people's hearts for years. But when it comes to Maine Mendoza and Alden Richards, even the smallest memory can feel timeless. Lately, the internet has once again found itself circling back to one unforgettable moment: their last kiss. A scene, a gesture, a fleeting second that, for many, meant so much more than what was shown on screen. But why does it still matter? Why does it still feel so alive? A moment that felt too real to be just acting. When Maine and Alden shared that kiss, it wasn't just about the act itself. It was everything surrounding it: the buildup, the hesitation, the emotion that seemed to spill beyond the boundaries of a script. Fans remember how it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel overly rehearsed. Instead, it carried a softness, almost like two people stepping into a moment they both understood without needing words. There was something in the way they looked at each other right before it happened. Something gentle, something careful, something real. And maybe that's why it stayed. The power of almost. What makes that kiss even more unforgettable is what followed after. There were no dramatic declarations, no sweeping confirmations, no clear continuation of that exact moment in real life. Instead, there was silence. And strangely, that silence made everything louder. Because the kiss began to represent more than just a scene, it became a symbol of what could have been. A glimpse into a possibility that fans felt but never saw fully unfold. It became the definition of almost. Why fans still go back to it? Every now and then, clips resurface, screenshots are shared, old videos trend again, and just like that, the emotions return as if no time has passed. People don't just revisit the kiss for nostalgia. They revisit it because it still feels unfinished. For many, it represents a connection that seemed deeper than words, a moment where reality and fiction blurred, a story that paused instead of ending. And in a way, it allows fans to hold on to something pure, something untouched by time or complicated explanations. Beyond the screen. It's important to remember that Maine Mendoza and Alden Richards are more than the roles they played or the moments they shared on camera. They are individuals with their own journeys, choices, and lives that continue to evolve. But even so, there's no denying that what they created together left a mark, not just in ratings, not just in trends, but in feelings. And feelings don't simply disappear. The beauty of a moment that never faded. What makes their last kiss so powerful isn't the idea that it was the end of something. It's the idea that it became a memory people could return to, a reminder of a time when everything felt simple, sincere, and full of possibility. It wasn't about how long it lasted. It was about how deeply it was felt. A sweet thought to hold on to. Maybe the reason the internet can't stop talking about that moment is because it gave people something rare, a kind of love that didn't need to be explained to be understood. And maybe, just maybe, that kiss wasn't meant to be the beginning of a forever. It wasn't meant to answer every question or define their story. Maybe it was simply meant to exist, as a beautiful, fleeting reminder that sometimes the most meaningful moments are the ones that leave us wondering, what if? When a single moment becomes a forever memory, time has a way of moving forward, whether people are ready or not. New shows rise, new pairings capture attention, and new stories take center stage. But somehow, despite everything that has come and gone, that one moment between Maine Mendoza and Alden Richards continues to find its way back into conversations. It's almost as if it refuses to be forgotten. Because for many, it wasn't just part of a storyline, it became part of their own memories too. People remember where they were when they first saw it, who they were with, how they felt. And that kind of connection, it doesn't fade easily. The unspoken language between them. There are moments in life where words feel unnecessary, where everything that needs to be said is already understood in silence. That kiss carried that kind of language. It wasn't loud. It didn't demand attention. It didn't try to prove anything. And yet, it spoke volumes. The way Alden Richards seemed to hold back just slightly, as if respecting the moment more than claiming it. The way Maine Mendoza leaned in with a quiet certainty, like she trusted the space between them. It created a balance that felt rare. Something gentle, something mutual, something that didn't need explanation. A scene that grew its script. What makes certain on screen moments unforgettable is when they begin to feel bigger than the story they belong to. That kiss did exactly that. It stepped outside of the script and into something more personal, something that audiences could interpret in their own way. Some saw it as the peak of a love story, others saw it as the beginning of something deeper, and some saw it as a goodbye disguised as a hello. That's the beauty of it. It didn't force a single meaning, it allowed people to feel what they wanted to feel. The role of timing in everything. Sometimes the most meaningful connections don't happen at the right time. And maybe that's part of what made that moment so powerful. Because timing has always been one of life's quietest, yet strongest forces. What if things were different? What if circumstances had aligned just a little better? What if the story didn't pause when it did? These are the questions that linger, not because they demand answers, but because they keep the feeling alive. And in the case of Maine Mendoza and Alden Richards, timing became part of the story itself. Why What If feels so powerful? There's something deeply human about holding on to possibilities, not realities, not confirmations, but possibilities. What If carries a different kind of emotion. It's softer, but it lasts longer because it never fully closes. That kiss became a what if, not in a painful way, but in a beautifully unfinished way. A moment suspended in time, untouched by everything that came after. The fans who never let it go. Every story has its witnesses, and in this case, millions of fans became more than just viewers. They became keepers of the memory. They revisit old clips, they share edits, they write captions that feel like letters to a moment that once made them believe in something pure. It's not just about holding on to Maine Mendoza and Alden Richards, it's about holding on to how that moment made them feel. Hopeful, soft, connected. And in a fast moving world, those feelings are rare. Growth, change, and separate paths. As time passed, both Maine Mendoza and Alden Richards continued to grow, not just as artists, but as individuals. New opportunities came, new chapters began, new people entered their lives. And that's how life is supposed to be. Stories evolve, people move forward. But even as everything changed, that one moment remained untouched, like a photograph that time simply chose not to fade. A memory that belongs to everyone. What's interesting about that kiss is that it no longer belongs only to them. It belongs to everyone who watched it, felt it, understood it in their own way. Each person carries a different version of that moment. For some, it represents young love. For others, it's about missed chances. And for many, it's simply a reminder that not all beautiful things are meant to last forever. Not all stories need an ending. There's a common belief that every story needs closure, an ending, an explanation, a final chapter. But maybe that's not always true. Maybe some stories are meant to stay open, to exist in a space where they are remembered, not resolved. That kiss feels like one of those stories. It didn't end. It simply paused. The quiet magic that still remains. Even now, years later, there's still something magical about going back to that moment. Not because people expect anything to change, but because it reminds them of a time when everything felt possible. And maybe that's enough. A final thought that lingers. If there's one thing that moment proved, it's this. Not all love stories are meant to be fully written. Some are meant to be felt, some are meant to be remembered, and some are meant to live quietly in the spaces between almost and forever. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes them unforgettable.